let me show you how I make the most delicious canned salmon burger. First, I start by pulsing some stale sourdough bread ends in my mini chopper. I'll leave a link in the description box below for the homemade breadcrumb recipe that I use. My large food processor stopped working during the process of making the breadcrumbs, but the Ninja mini chopper worked perfectly for this. After pulsing them into fine crumbs, I spread them out on a sheet pan in a thin layer, and I toasted them in a preheated 325-degree oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, usually closer to the 30-minute mark. I stir them about halfway through the cooking time. Watch them carefully so they don't burn. Next, I finely chop a half a cup an onion, making sure they're in really small pieces for faster cooking. Then I chop a half a cup of celery into really small pieces as well. Grab a handful of fresh parsley and chop about a quarter of a cup. You can chop a little extra because I use that for serving the burgers after they're cooked. So this is a recipe my dad always used to make. He used saltine crackers, which was delicious, but I wanted to make it healthier by incorporating and not wasting the leftover ends of the bread that I made. Here I'm using 2 large cans of salmon. I buy salmon from Aldi. It's much more affordable and it tastes great too. I empty the cans into a fine mesh strainer and let all the liquid run out. I like using a shallow and wide bowl for this mixture. This helps with the mixing process and it helps to evenly incorporate the ingredients so you don't have a pile of onions in one spot and a whole bunch of salt and pepper in another spot. You can layer it evenly over the salmon. It's just incorporates so much easier. I break up the salmon gently using my hands or sometimes a large fork. Hands work best. Now I add the chopped onions, the celery, and the parsley, distributing it evenly over the top of the salmon. In a small mixing bowl, I whisk together 3 eggs and then add that to the top of the other ingredients. Here are the finished crumbs. You want them nice and dark and golden brown. I just give them a feel with my hands to make sure that they're all crisp and nothing is left soft or left untoasted. After pouring the eggs over the salmon, I add about 1 to 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. If you're using saltine crackers, start with 1 cup and then adjust as needed. By giving the salmon mixture a squeeze between your hands, you'll be able to tell if it needs more crumbs. The mixture should stick together, but you don't want it too dense or dry either. And if you're using saltines, you can eliminate the added teaspoon of salt at the end. So gently mix that in. And then if you're using the homemade breadcrumbs, you could sprinkle in about a teaspoon of salt and some fresh cracked black pepper. And again, gently mix the seasoning in. Next, I'm going to heat my large electric skillet. You can use any pan. A cast iron skillet is great for this. I prefer this one because I can make 8 or 10 at a time. I put about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter all over the pan. To form the burgers, I use a large muffin scoop or a large ice cream scoop, and then I finish forming them into a patty using my hands, pressing them together. And just keep repeating that process until you could fit as many as you can on the pan, with space in between. You don't want to overcrowd them either. After about 4 to 5 minutes, checking the bottom frequently to be sure they're not burning. You can give them a flip and repeat the cooking process for another 4 to 5 minutes on the second side. I always add more butter after flipping onto the second side. After the first batch, repeat with the last of the mixture, and before putting them on a serving plate, I like to use parchment paper to separate them before stacking them onto one another so they don't stick, especially if you're making them ahead of time and you're going to put them in the fridge. The parchment paper works really well so they don't stick together and come out all in one clump when you take them out of the refrigerator. I also like to serve these with a lemon wedge, a scoop of avocado mayo, and a little pinch of parsley on the side. It's great served with mashed potatoes, with a white homemade gravy. You can serve them with rice. I hope this video inspires you to use canned salmon. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Head on over to the blog simplyeatathome.com for the printable version of the recipe, along with other great tips and recipes.